good. And I shall share my screen. Good. So welcome everybody. It's really nice to see you today. So today we're looking at helping you manage your child's screen time, but we are specifically looking at the age group for 4 to 11s, and I want to take you through 7 steps that are really useful for you to know, and you can interrupt me at any point in time and just ask a question, but there'll be time to answer questions at the end. So I don't know if you've ever seen me or heard of me before, but this was me on BBC Breakfast. And this was me on Sky News. So I appear in the media, and I've been on Radio 4 Woman's Hour. I've been on lots of radio shows. And nowadays, a lot of it's on journalists ring me when they're trying to get articles together on parenting. But my day job is a child behaviour expert. So I work one-to-one with people who are struggling with children's behaviour. And it can be anything. It can be anything from siblings just fighting the whole time. It can be screen time. It can be anger management. It can be not sleeping at night. So I work one-to-one with parents. But today, what we're looking at is 7 steps to help your child manage their screen time. And then I will just, for those of you that might be interested, if you want an opportunity to work more with me after that, so I'll just let you know. Hello, welcome, Aisha. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Good. So we've just got started, and we're just looking at the 7 steps to help your child manage their screen time. But just before we start, it's useful just to look at why there's such a lot going on about screen time. So a gentleman called Jonathan Haidt wrote a book called The Anxious Generation. It's actually a really good book to read if you are just interested in the effects of screen time. But what's really interesting about this book is they did retrospective analysis. They realized that the children going into universities weren't as mentally stable, weren't as robust, weren't as resilient as children that they had at university, and they looked at why. So they went back and analysed all the data for mental health for children. And they looked back and found that whilst the mental health problems were continuing at a slow rate, between 2010 and 2015, there was a big increase, almost like a tick that was going up for depression, for anxiety, for the rates of self-harm and suicide in teenagers. And he realised that in 2007, 2008 was the release of the smartphones. And this is when teenagers began to adopt them, and gradually they were going up, and they're still going up, which is why there's such a big concern over the rates of screen time. What we're learning is puberty is critical. Now, puberty for girls starts a little bit earlier. So puberty for girls can start sort of like 10, 11, 12. Sometimes for boys, it doesn't start till 12, 13, 14. But what we know is the biggest danger is social media for girls. And for boys, it's gaming, and then it's porn. So those are the things that are really attracting the teenage market. There are calls now to ban smartphones for children under 14 because of the crucial impact in that puberty time. They're looking to ban social media because of the huge harm social media can do for children under 16. And that actually includes things like YouTube and WhatsApp. Because of the difficulties. If at any point in time you have a question, you're really welcome to unmute yourself and just ask a question. I'd love to hear from you. So that's what started the smartphone-free childhood movement. So that's where there's a lot of schools making pacts to really not have smartphones for children under 14. And so Emily, you were just saying about your 10-year-old. The normal phones where you can just text and it rings. Those are fine. What we're talking about is the smartphones, the danger of smartphones.
Okay, thank you. And I have mentioned this to Indy, my daughter. I've said there might be a ban,
Yeah.
but I've now found I think some of the other mothers have got phones that are just for calling, the snake game,
Yes.
if that, and the text. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But this next statement is really interesting. When it comes to technology, you're not trying to control your child, you're trying to teach them self-control. And this is crucial because otherwise, if you are the ones that are always limiting their time, it means that when they leave home, they don't have the ability to limit their own time. So what we're going to try and do is look at how you can help your child manage their screen time. Because actually their whole childhoods are at risk. Children are spending so long on screens, it means that they're not playing outdoors, they're not playing with their friends, they're not learning social skills. And the challenge, if you like, we know that at the moment, Ofsted have done a survey and found that on average, a child aged between 5 and 16 has an average of 6.3 hours of screen time per day, and that's not including the Chromebooks and all the technology that they access at school. That's outside of school. When you think about it, you think that's almost their entire life. If they're at school for the 6 hours and you bring them home and then they're on screens for 6 hours, but that includes leaving the televisions on. You know, it can be movies, it can be smartphones, it can be gaming. But the challenge, and actually this is really important because this is what I would like for each of you on the call today, to be able to limit your child's leisure screen time to a maximum of an hour a day and 2 hours at the weekend or on a school holiday. So that's, if you could achieve that, your time today would have been really well spent. And my role is now to show you how to do it. Now, I'm going to say it's your family, your rules. You get to decide what rules you want. And for some people I've worked with, they've they've got their teenage son's screen time down to 3 hours, and they've said that is a huge bonus and so different from how it was before. And it's 3 hours a day, and they're very pleased with that. Actually, less is better. What we know is after 2 hours, children's brains started getting affected, and we are rewiring their brains for screens after they've been on the screens for 2 hours. So the 7 steps to help your child manage their screen time, I'll just go through them and then I'll go through them in more detail. So first of all, educate and involve your child. Children need to be involved. If you are dictating the rules, if you aren't involving them, they're not learning. So it's really important that they begin to understand what's going on and why it's important to limit screen time. Then notice I've said discuss and decide family screen time rules. Now you're the parents, so you get to decide the screen time rules, but you can discuss with your children what they want. And you can disregard it and you can say, this is really hard, but as a parent, I need to make this decision because we know that this is the best thing for you. So you can decide the rules. The next one is get them to earn their screen time. So rather than having the screen time automatically, they come home, they just put the television on, they earn their following day's screen time by good screen time behaviour. But you have to be firm and consistent. If it's not a firm rule, it's just a wish. And children learn that if there's any grey area, they'll exploit it. Number 5 is use a timer. Number 6 is encourage non-screen activities. You can't expect children to entertain themselves. You have to start giving them activities or helping them. But actually, it's not your job to entertain them. They need to learn to entertain themselves, but you need to help them so that they can start transitioning away from screens and onto other things. And the final one is consider a digital detox. I work with a lot of families. Probably about a third of them end up doing a digital detox, which is, it depends. You can do a little digital detox, you know, for a day or a weekend, but these are actually strategized, which is a 2-week screen time ban. So I will teach you as we go through how to do that. So the first step is educate and involve your child. So it's important to ask them about, you know, what they're doing on apps, what they're doing on screens, what they're enjoying. It's interesting to ask them what issues do they notice among classmates. Some children will already be addicted to screens and will be obsessed with screens and can't talk about anything else in the playground. It's good to talk about issues. And in a minute, I'm going to go through the specific issues that I would love you to be talking about. It's useful to ask what they think. This is a conversation. This is involving them. Ask what they think, is good about screen time. What are the dangers? Ask them to show you sites they use and games they play. And I've said, if they are ever on social media, really important that you follow them so that you can see what they're putting out there and that you've got an idea of what they're doing. Now, because we're looking at the younger age group, there's loads of books and resources that you can use, Polly and the Screen Time Overload, Bye Bye Wi-Fi, Unplugged. There's also a really good website called Let's Grow, or Let Grow, and it's about challenging children each week to do something new on their own. And this is really good because a lot of children are losing their ability to, well, almost life skills, things that we did as children that they're not getting the opportunity to do. And that could be as simple as going to a corner shop and buying a pint of milk, or helping to cook dinner, or even cooking dinner. But one of the things that's really useful to do is to help children become the manipulation police. So by this, it's thinking of what are the tech companies doing that are making the iPhones, the devices, the Switch, all the things that they're on, what are making them addictive? So it's things like autoplay, when something starts straight away, the next episode starts before you've even had a chance to turn it off. This is a really important one if you've got girls. Teaching them about beauty filters and photoshopped images, because every image they see on TikTok, on social media, in magazines, they will all be photoshopped, and girls aren't realizing this, but they're starting to feel bad about themselves, and it's helping them understand that. The algorithms, it's useful to talk about artificial intelligence, AI, and looking at how AI works out what your interests are, even when children don't know themselves. So if a girl looks up, I'm fat, or how to diet, that is the danger where they then start getting filtered a lot of information about diets and then more extreme forms of dieting. The infinite scroll where it never ends, and that's part of our brain likes things to be completed. So it plays on that and you never get anything completed because there's always an infinite scroll. Getting little notifications, it's very hard to ignore a notification on your phone. So it's understanding how that plays on your mind until you've checked your phone. The likes, when likes were introduced on Facebook, it was then spread across Instagram and Twitter at the time, it was now X, because it's so popular. This is social proof. And a lot of teenagers are very into social proof and are looking for the number of likes that they're going to get. Even just the little text bubble when someone is typing makes you hang on to a site. Things like recommended for you. So when you're on something and they say, oh, if you're interested in this, you probably like this, which includes things like ratings, clickbait. So this is where you see a title and you're compelled to click on it because you're really curious about what the answer might be. Sponsored advertising. So a lot of children may not realize that sponsored advertising comes above, the generic searches. Influencer promotions, and that's a big danger. Once children get sort of like over the age of 8, they'll see influencers on TikTok or on YouTube, and they'll start wanting to buy the things they buy so that they're like them. The fact that Facebook and all of the social media platforms don't provide proof of age, and if you sign up for it, they would blame the child for lying about signing up for it rather than taking responsibility for proving that the child was the age they say they were. What we know is games are tested for adrenaline production. So when the manufacturers make games, they sit people there to play the games. And if their adrenaline doesn't go high enough, they go back to the drawing board to make sure that the adrenaline production is so high that the games will become addictive. They also use random rewards. So if you get a regular, predictable reward, it can get boring But if you suddenly get random rewards, it can be a huge boost, and it plays on a child's primitive brain, which is, I want to play more just in case I can get another reward, or I want to watch this more just in case I get another video that's really exciting. And peer pressure, you know what? The companies rely on children to do the work for them to make the games addictive. So if everybody else has a smartphone, it's very hard to say no to your child. If everybody else has Fortnite or a Switch, it's really hard. So they rely on other children spreading the word and making these games really compelling for a child to have. But I'd just love to ask, why? Why do companies make these products so addictive? What's going on? Why are they using all these techniques?
Just to keep them, keep customers coming back, I suppose.
Right.
And that an interesting point from the peer pressure. If you go into local supermarket, you look at children's clothings, particularly little boys. It's all about the Minecraft, and I know Roblox is quite popular games. I hear my children talking about it, where people are playing at school. There's also that connected community. So I think children can message one another, and if you've got classmates messaging,
Yes.
they feel left out. Because I know some of the mums on we've spoken about, allowing them to chat on certain games for some of the girls. And yeah, I think even it's that consumerism stuff. You see PlayStation games on clothing and everything
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
It
But
makes a big part of that, doesn't it?
the big question is, what's in it for the companies?
Money.
Thank you, Penny. Absolutely. Absolutely. They do it for money.
Yeah.
They do it for profits. And children don't realize this. The games are made addictive. The social media sites are made addictive. There is the war for eyeballs. All tech companies are in this war to make sure that children watch as much as possible, because a child who becomes addicted to screens is a consumer for life. If they get addicted to an iPhone, if they get addicted to an Android phone, if they get addicted to certain games like Minecraft, these will be the customers of the future. A lot of the purpose is to collect data. That data is used to sell to them. So this is the peer pressure. This is the pester power that children use, because they see, oh, there's a new game just like this that I could play, that my friends are playing. But also advertising. Now I have another question. If we know that spending vast amounts of time on screens is harmful to children, why would the companies harm the customer?
Well, they probably don't intend to. It's a byproduct, which isn't really they don't see as their concern.
Okay. Anybody else?
And they probably don't see it as their responsibility. It's the responsibility of the parents.
Right. So they abdicate responsibility.
Yeah.
But there's a big reason though here. Why would they harm children? Why would they make children addicted? Okay, this is really interesting. The real customers are the advertisers, and your child's childhood is collateral damage,
Right.
which is kind of scary. They're selling data. They're trying to make profits. The longer your child spends on, just say Instagram, the more Instagram is worth. The more people that are on Instagram, the more they can get engagement, the more the company is worth. And the more people will use it, and the more people will advertise. And then Instagram can say, we've got this vast amount of data of all these children, and this is what they're into, so let's send them stuff like this. So the fact that children get addicted, you're right, Penny, they're not as concerned about it. But the truth is, if a child is spending 6.3 hours on screens, and we know it's affecting their mental health, but we know it's affecting their physical health, their eyesight, their necks, their bodies, the obesity levels, there's so many reasons. So this is the kind of conversation it's really useful to have with children, about what's really going on and why these products are addictive. So let's move on to step 2 now, which is discuss and decide the family screen time rules. So I've already said a really good rule for everybody on the call today would be a maximum of 1 hour screen time on a school day, 2 hours on weekends or holidays. Less is better. If you can get away with less, that would be better. But you get to decide the rules. And actually, as we're going through this, you could jot down anything that you think would be a good rule for your family. So I've said there's screen-free meal times and family time. So when you're out with the family, when you're having meals, making sure that screens aren't involved in that. Could be homework and chores before screen time. So if they need to do little jobs or if they have homework, that needs to be done before screen time. Bedrooms could be screen-free. It's a really, really good rule to have. Phones are charged downstairs overnight. Have screen-free days. So you might say Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's no screens, or whatever day of the week is a good time for you. But you can also agree as exceptions. So you sit down and you talk with them about what's okay, what isn't okay. As I say, today is all about giving you power back. So this is about actually putting you in the driving seat again, but you can agree what exceptions are. So like if you had a family movie night on a Friday night, you know, you could say, actually, that's as well as your screen time, you know, that's an amnesty kind of thing, or video calls, you know, with family or friends that you feel would be okay. So it's useful to explore, how would this look in your household? How would this look in your family? What rules do you want? And a good way of helping engagement is to ask questions. So why is this important? How do you feel about an hour? What would you spend your screen time doing? Do you need to record anything? What games would you like to play? Would you like to set a time, say between 5 and 6 when you're allowed on your screens? Do we need to agree any exceptions? It could be when they have friends over, they have less screen time or more screen time, or you know, you sit down and you think, what will we do in this situation? How do you think you'll feel when you need to turn it off? What will help you turn it off more easily? So questions, when you tell a child something, it goes in one ear and out the other. When you ask a child questions, they get involved and they're engaged, and then you know that they understand what the rule is. So the third step is get them to earn their screen time. So this is turning it off on time, so that they earn their screen time by doing these 3 things. They turn it off on time, they turn it off calmly, and they stay calm in the hour after screen time. So you sort of talk it through, and then you say, so, you know, if you follow the rules, you get a maximum of an hour the next day. But if there's a big argument after you come off, you might only earn 40 minutes the next day. And then if there's a really big fuss, turning it off, or you secretly play on the switch in your bedroom, then you won't earn any screen time the following day. So you make it really clear, and the clearer you are, the better. But those 3 rules are really useful. So the thing is, don't then ban screen time for something else. So if they have the most almighty tantrum just before bed, but it's after the hour after screen time, it doesn't count. They still get their screen time the next day, because otherwise they'll think it's not worth trying to earn my screen time, because sometimes you ban it anyway. So it has to be related. But the next step is being firm and consistent. So, you know, you go in and your child is still on their game, and you say something like, hey, you're still on your game, your timer must have gone off. And they'll say something like, oh, yes, I just need to finish this level, I'll only be another minute. And then you say something like, you know, the rule, when I come in, you should have turned the game off and found something else to do. Yeah. So, you know, it's only a minute, look, I'm done now, you know, that's fine. And then you don't mention the consequence at that moment. If you tell your child they haven't earned their screen time, they're going to blow up. So you just very calmly, I get that it's tough turning a game off, it's really hard, turn it off now, and then you can start winding down before bed. So you then move them on. However, the next day, either before they go to school or when they come in from school, very calmly you say, yesterday you carried on playing after your timer had gone off, so you can have 40 minutes of screen time today, and you can earn your full hour tomorrow if you stick to your time today and there are no arguments, okay? So you actually insist on that rule, and they may be disappointed and they may get cross, and if they get cross, you can empathize. Yes, it is hard. Yes, I'm trying to teach you to manage your screen time, and I get it. It's really hard to learn how to do that. So the next step is actually just quite a simple one. It's just use a timer. Now, it's the best thing is to put a timer in front of your child. So you kind of plan ahead, you know, what do you want to do for an hour? Get them to set their phone timer for TV or gaming, or a little kitchen timer to go off after 55 minutes. If they can see the timer, it's really useful, because actually time flies when you're having fun. And time on screens goes so much quicker, and they honestly believe that you are cheating them because they can't believe they've had their full screen time because it's gone so quickly. So it's really useful if they can see a timer, if the timer goes off after 55 minutes, so that they know they've got 5 minutes just to wind down and save their progress or turn the game off. But a good strategy is you set a timer on your phone to go off after an hour and 5 minutes. So you know when to go back to your child to make sure that they're off. However, if they don't tell you they're having screen time and they're on their screens, they either get less or no screen time the next day. So if they're sneaking screen time because they happen to notice the iPad sitting there and suddenly went on it, whatever it is, it's kind of like making the rules quite clear. Now, the next step is to encourage non-screen activities. Children find it hard to do other things. So very useful to make a list. And in a minute, I'm going to give you a whole load of ideas of things that you can put on that list that might appeal to your child. Really good for them to meet up with friends, great to have family time, really good to pursue interests, do things that they would, you know, you remember when you were a child and you used to do different things that your children aren't doing? It's really useful to find, you know, whether it's learning card tricks or learning to juggle or playing an instrument, whatever it is. Very useful that they can do homework. They have time to do homework because they're not on the screens full time. And actually, it's very useful to get children to help out doing jobs for an hour to 2 hours a week, so that it's not all about them having fun. It's very useful if they can actually contribute to the family. So I've got a whole load of ideas there for sort of like non-screen activities. So useful just to have a look at those, just of things to start getting you started, of things that they could enjoy. And what you do is you build up the list, put it up in their room so that they can see the list and they can start going through it and they have an idea of what else they could do. And I've got another list. So there's loads of different ideas. It's looking at what would work for your child and what would appeal to them. But there's lots of ideas there, and you will find loads. You know, if you find your child absorbed in a game that isn't a screen game, write it down on the list. If you find your child enjoys doing certain things like cooking or dare I say even cleaning with you, you know, children actually like doing jobs with you if you involve them and you make it fun. So actually it's anything that would appeal. So the final step is consider a digital detox. Now, as I said, this could be something small. So it could be having a screen-free day. You know, Saturdays, we're going to make screen-free. It could be having a screen-free weekend. So this weekend coming, we're going to turn all the screens off. We're not going to go on our phones. It could be a screen-free week. I don't know if any of you live in Cornwall or if you've ever been to Cornwall on family holidays, but normally the signal is dreadful, and that would be a great time to actually do a screen-free week. But it could be that you're going abroad and you just don't need to have the screens on. It is useful if you're going to do this to lock the phones and devices away, because if they're tempting and on, it can be very tempting just to look at them. Good to plan activities, so good to do some fun things and to sit down with the children and say, what should we do for the weekend? But also encourage them to check their list of non-screen activities, so that, as I say, you don't need to be their entertainment manager. It's really important that children learn to entertain themselves. So it's useful to think, could could they just work out what they could do? It's actually good for children to be bored. And I know, you know, that seems to be the word that as parents we dread. I'm bored, and you think, oh goodness, now I've got to make suggestions, and anything you suggest isn't worth it unless it's screen time. So it's useful to actually have that list up. But what I would say is, if behavior is really bad, it's useful to do a proper digital detox. Now, this is a 2-week digital detox, and I work with a lot of families, and most families who have done this have said they wish they'd done it sooner, because the change in the relationship between siblings and the ability of siblings to get on and play together, plus the behaviour at home, has been so good that they've been completely shocked. And in fact, they've been reluctant to reintroduce the screens. So if you were going to do this, just say you've limited screen time, but actually there's loads of fusses, there's loads of arguments, or your children are constantly arguing and fighting, and it's just making things a misery. What you do is you explain that first of all, I'm considering a digital detox. So I'm thinking about banning screen time for a couple of weeks. Then the behaviour is really bad again, and you say, right, now I'm seriously considering it. We're seriously thinking about doing this. Bad behaviour continues. You say, right, 3 more things, and 3 strikes and you're out. So if there is any more screaming in my face, refusing to turn your phone off, sneaking the iPad into your bedroom, you two fighting and arguing all the time, if there's any hitting or there's any violent outbursts, that will be a strike. But actually be really clear, make it crystal clear what would involve a digital detox. If they do those 3 things, you don't ban it immediately. You don't say, right, that's it, I'm taking all the screens away, because you can be guaranteed a fireworks. The next day, you lock all the devices away, either when they're at school or when they're in bed, or you put them in your car if it's weather like this, not if it's really hot, otherwise you're going to overheat everything. Give it to a neighbour, put it somewhere where the children aren't going to find it. You lock them all away, and they come back and they say, where's the iPad? And you say, I've locked them all away. Last night was your 3rd strike. Unfortunately, that means there are no screens now for 2 weeks. And you chose that. You knew exactly what behaviour was going to start the ban, and you carried on. Now, interestingly, with the families I've worked with, most are shocked at how long it takes them to get to the 3 strikes. They think it'll be a day and they'll have it. But actually, some families manage to go a whole month before they get to the point where they're banning it, because all of a sudden the children realise that their behaviour is going to result in this ban. And as long as you're absolutely serious about it and they know you're serious, then it will work. So you may need to decide about homework. So that could be that they have to do their homework at school, or if they have to do homework, you have a laptop in the sitting room and you can see what they're doing, because you can guarantee that any child that is being deprived of screen time will try to go on YouTube or gaming or sort of like communicating with their friends. But the whole thing is, you have to stay completely calm. You don't have to lose your temper. If you can stay completely calm, all the spotlight is on your child's behaviour. It's not on you. You can stay utterly calm and empathise. Yes, this is hard. Yes, this is difficult. Yes, I know that none of the other mothers have done this, with their children. And in our house, I'm not having behaviour like that. What the child may not realise, and what you can point out, is the 2 weeks only start when the behaviour improves. So some children will try to make your life a misery in order to force you to give them their screen time back. So you can actually say, when the behaviour is good, then the 2 weeks start. Now, what's quite useful is just to get a couple of days under your belt, because then you can say, right, you've got 2 days, 12 days to go. Okay, it's 7 days to go. So you actually help them stay calm, because any one of those previous behaviours, the screaming in your face, the hitting, the huge violent outburst, whatever it is, it restarts the clock. So the 2 weeks start again. Really useful to make a list of all the things that they can do when they're not on screens. I had a lovely mum that I was working with recently who told me that her two children used to argue. She had one very difficult behaved child, one not so difficult. But actually, when they did the screen time ban, the children got on a lot better. And she sent me a photograph of her daughter fiddling around on a ukulele in her bedroom and her son playing football in the garden. And she was just so thrilled because this hadn't happened for months. And all of a sudden, the children were discovering the things that they could do. So when it comes to the end of 2 weeks, good to reintroduce gradually. You won't want to reintroduce it because actually you will suddenly realize how much nicer family life is without the screens. So all I would say is maybe start with 20 minutes and then go half an hour and then go 40 minutes and then go up to the hour and say to them, if the bad behavior starts again, we go back to the digital detox. We'll do that again. So it does change people's lives. It has a huge impact. So we've kind of gone through those 7 steps, and they're very powerful because it starts changing. It starts giving you the power back. Now, sometimes actually it's really hard to do this on your own. Even having done this session, you tend to think, right, I'm going to get in charge. I'm going to go home. We're going to be a different family. Sometimes it's hard to keep things going. So it can be useful to have somebody to check in with, sort of like, and I just want to just very quickly just explain about a new course I'm going to be running because I'm starting at the end of this month. There will be a chance at the end to answer more questions. So any questions that you have, just jot them down and we'll go through them. And for anybody that really isn't interested, that's fine. You could log off now because I've been through the 7 steps. But if any of you just want to know a little bit about learning more or just taking it a little bit further, I work a lot with families and to be really fair, one-to-one with me working with 2 parents or 1 parent if they're a single mum, to get things back on track at home is really powerful. But I'm actually going to start running a group online course. Now, I'm just going to tell you very quickly what we'd be doing because on the first session, we'd look at encouraging good behaviour. So this is how you get children to behave well and how to diffuse difficult emotions. So I'd love to teach you how to diffuse an angry or an upset outburst in less than 2 minutes. The second session is how to prevent poor behaviour. So this is the best way to stop a child misbehaving before they've even misbehaved. It's the best technique. It's a really good psychological technique, but also how you set good boundaries. So we'll be looking at screen time again, but we'll also look at how you set up good morning routines or good evening routines or homework and things, and how to get the children actually involved. The next one is positive discipline and sibling rivalry. So I'd love to go through 18 ways to discipline a child without even raising your voice, and sibling rivalry, how to reduce sibling rivalry, how to get children to sort out their own arguments. The next one is encouraging independence. So this is helping children learn how to do things for themselves that they're perfectly capable of doing, you know, like packing their school bags or getting ready in the morning or getting ready for bed on time, but also how to get them to help around the house for between 1 hour and 2 hours a week. And that session will also involve a Q&A. We'll look at how to get back in charge at home without being over controlling and how to stay calm. So I'll actually take you through 6 steps to help you stay completely calm as a parent. And then the final session is button pushing, which is, you know, those things that just drive you mad that the children do. It's how to diffuse those buttons, but also looking at how to help children be resilient and help their mental health, how to have more fun as a family, and how to keep up your skills going forward. And I think the advantage of doing this is it's a 6-week course. It's going to be a group course. It starts on the 27th of February, so the end of this month. It'll be 9:30 till 11:30, and it will be finished on the 3rd of April, so everything will be done before the Easter holidays. It will basically just give you a toolbox of really great parenting skills to help your child behave at their best, and give you a calmer, happier life as parents so that you can actually enjoy being with the children and have a lovely family life. I'm a child behaviour expert, so every week I'd be there to guide you. You can ask questions, you can tell us about what's going on, and we can tweak things so that they work for you. The cost is £400. Spaces are limited. It's only going to be a small group, but it would be one of the best investments you could ever make in your child's life. So I've said that just send me an email to say I'm interested. And my email address is elizabeth@parentforsuccess.com. So yeah, just send me an email. And what I'd love to do, because I don't want this to be a sort of like a generic thing, I'd love to just have a chat with you on the phone, just find out a little bit more about your family and the issues that you're facing, so that I can make sure that the course meets your needs. Okay, so we come to the end of the session, and I'm just very curious. Have you got any questions? Any questions about the techniques we've covered, or about screen time in general? Anything at all?
I mean, my daughter's 25 now, but I do remember from when she was much younger that one of the things is that I mean, there are parents need the telly sometimes, don't they? And you know, I can remember that being a dilemma. That, you know, we may have been what we did control the amount of TV that we watched, but there are times when you actually need it yourself, but you're not thinking necessarily the best thing for the kids.
Well, I think that hour rule would be really useful, that you're allowed an hour during the week and you're allowed 2 hours at the weekends, and that's free. You know, that's absolutely your entitlement. And the thing is, I think as parents, we sometimes feel we have to impose rules on our children. Actually, it's really good if we can set a good example for the children. So it can be so useful if the rules apply to everybody. It can't always, and you have to make this clear distinction. I'm working now, so I'm on my laptop, but this is work. Or I have to check the emails because there's things coming through from your school or from, you know, friends, and we're meeting up tomorrow. Those kind of things where that's not your leisure screen time, but your leisure screen time is you sitting down and relaxing, and that's absolutely okay.
So, and yes, yeah. But one of the things also is that we quite enjoyed a bit of when my daughter was younger, and we still do, a bit of shared viewing on the telly. But what I've noticed with my great nieces, I don't think there's much of that really. You know, it's all individualized now. Do you know what I mean? I don't know about the other people who've got younger children on the call, but
I think shared TV is great. I think TV is often a good idea, and that can be where you decide your exception. So I know some families watch Bake Off. Some families might watch certain programs all together, and it's a family thing, and it's a communal thing, and I think that's lovely.
Yeah, I agree with Penny.
Bonding.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Emily.
I was just going to say, I totally agree with Penny. Yeah, and there's been realizations. So for me going forward, this has been great, and I think that 1 hour rule with the telly, I'm going to figure out what to do mornings and post school and school clubs. But there was a time in the past I've realised, they both get on really good, my children, and they do play together. And if there's telly, they kind of come to an agreement with what they're going to watch. Sometimes there'll be arguments, but they generally manage it or watch the same stuff, similar interest.
Yes.
But I have noticed, you know, when I've been cutting around doing the housework or preparing the tea, and I've gone, I'm not sitting with them, I'm not watching anything. We'll have a Friday film night. But since Gladiators done the rounds again and come back on, and all the other shows, like we watch the Michael McIntyre and have a laugh with that, and there's a lot of other family related shows like the Bake Offs too that we're starting to enjoy all together, because I realised that I've been away doing other stuff and they've been doing their children programs, but it's nicer for me, even if I'm just coming to sit and have a cup of coffee, to sit with them and watch it, laugh along. It's really good, because I was noticing the same, Penny. I was almost felt separate from and the telly was on just for them, you know, in the evening, catching up on a show, but need to try and make it a bit more family. Going forward, it's the telly from me. With things like the tablet and Switch, we have a timer on it, which is really helpful, that some of the electronics have a timer, like 30 minutes, half an hour. And when that's time limit's reached, it doesn't allow any more play.
Emily, I'm really glad you raised that, because timers can be really useful. But actually, the one thing they don't do is teach your child to turn the screen off themselves.
You're right.
It goes off, And therefore, something else is controlling them rather than them controlling themselves.
Ah, okay.
Now, it's okay because actually that's not their general screen time. So you're saying you've got half an hour on the switch, it's going to switch itself off after half an hour. So that's not so bad. But if you can possibly get children to manage their own screen time,
Right,
that's
that's
better.
interesting. Oh, I'm going to do that, because there are times, then he'll say, "Can I have the pin to have a bit more, another game of the football?" And you either do or you don't, depending. But I think I'll do that. Then we'll get a timer, or I'll use my phone one and give him that empowerment. Then that'd be cool.
Yes, and actually it's really interesting that you said there a little bit about relaxing the rules. One of the things that I found, so I was working with a family recently, and they had a 10-year-old boy, and he was allowed 1 hour of television. They got it beautifully. He had his hour, there was no problems. Then one day his dad was watching sport on TV, and his mum was really busy, and he said, "Can I have an extra half an hour?" So his mum said, "Oh, go on then." The next day, he has his hour. He says, "Can I have an extra half an hour?" And she said, "No." He went ballistic.
Oh, wow.
He had the biggest meltdown she had ever seen him have, because he had worked out there was a little grey area and he was trying
Yeah.
to exploit it. So what's very interesting is when they say, "Can I have the pin to have an extra 5 minutes or an extra 10 minutes?" Or the children who are on Apple phones learn to press a certain button that allows them to
Okay.
have extra time. When you allow that grey area, things start to go wrong.
Right, that's helpful. Thank
If you
you.
can be really firm about the 1 hour, and
Yeah.
you've had your hour, you'll get your time tomorrow, but if you can turn that off calmly, then you are more likely to be able to help them manage their screen time a lot better.
Lovely. Thank you.
No, really good question.
Another little idea I just wanted to mention, which seems to work quite well in our family, is that the children are not on WhatsApp, but their dad has managed to make a text group, which is for the family. So
Right.
they can text the extended family and have a little chat, but it's not what it's only
That's a great idea, Penny. Really good idea, because WhatsApp, I have worked with quite a few families where the messages on WhatsApp have not only got children into serious trouble, but have got them expelled from school.
Yeah.
And when you start introducing WhatsApp, because most families think we want to communicate with each other. It's great if I can send a message to my child and they can reply. But when you start using WhatsApp, a lot of other children are on WhatsApp, and WhatsApp and Snapchat are rife for bullying. And they cause big problems, big mental health problems for children, and it's really good to kind of restrict that. But I'm all in favor of families being able to communicate with each other and getting children. I think it's quite clever because the manufacturers have called them dumb phones as opposed to smartphones. Very clever title, because it implies that you're not smart if you don't have one. But just having a normal type phone, thank you, Emily, is really useful because it allows a child to be able to communicate, to be able to accept messages without having access to the internet day and night.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Great. Debs, I'm just curious, any questions?
Yes, sorry, I couldn't get my microphone connected at the beginning of the call, so I'm so sorry. I've actually got a 5-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl, so quite a big age gap. I feel like I've already got it wrong with her. And so I'm really trying not to make the same mistakes with my little boy.
Yes.
And on the detox side of things, it's interesting because we've only managed a day so far. We try and have a day at the weekend where we detox. And I find it amazing. I find the kids, because of the big age gap, they don't necessarily play together. But actually, when they're in the car and we're on the way somewhere, they just communicate more. And it's just so refreshing. I just need to keep reminding my husband, though, that it means he can't be he has to put his phone as well. And I find that quite a challenge because he's like, well, it's for the kids. I'm like, no, it's for everybody as a family. You can't say it's okay for you to have it, but not them. So yes, but I've found it really interesting. So thank you so much.
No, you're really welcome. And Debs, with a 14-year-old, it's not too late. I do
No.
work with parents of teenagers, and you can get back in charge. But the thing is to involve her. to talk with
Yeah.
them, go through those things that are dangerous, you know, the manipulation techniques, help her understand them, help her be aware of them. Your 5-year-old, if you can do this sooner rather than later,
Yes.
you'll already be alert to, oh, that's one of the techniques that they use. Oh, autoplay. Oh, that's how they get you to watch the next program, kind of thing. Your 14-year-old, you may need to have a lot more discussions, but it could be work with her to decide on some screen time limits.
Yeah. I think I'm very pleased that we managed to hold off giving her a telephone until she went to secondary school, because
Well done.
since actually being at secondary school and her having it does, I've seen how just overwhelming the whole telephone thing is. So I'm pleased that we managed to do that, but it does seem now she's either one or the other. She's either on her phone or an iPad, and that's slightly tricky. So we are trying to work on that at the moment.
A very good line to use is, that isn't working for us. We need to find something that works for everybody.
Yeah, that's a
Because
very good point.
it's really important that you have a family life. It's really important that she's involved in family life. If she could learn to limit her screen time to an hour a day, it would help her hugely in terms of mental health, physical health, social skills, so many benefits. But it's working with her. If you work against her, you become the controller and she will push against it. But if you talk with her, there will be things going on at school about screen time. She'll be seeing it. There will be little projects. Can you go without screens for a few days? And how was it for you, kind of thing. So it's worthwhile just exploring that world with her.
Yes, thank you. We've also tried to, it's one step at a time at the moment, but we've tried to say to her, look, if you want your technology, you know, if you're obviously, that's fine, but please can you try and do it in an open space with us downstairs, not in your bedroom, so that, you know, you can still at least be part of the, you know, sitting with the family. So it's kind of gentle steps at the moment.
Yeah, but you're doing really well with the one-day digital detox, Debs. That's
Yeah.
a great idea, a great plan, and it's working for you. And it is so interesting, isn't it, watching the difference in the children when they're not on screens. When they know they can't go on a screen, they start being nicer to each other.
Yes. Yeah, and more relaxed in
Yeah.
themselves. Yeah.
Yes. No, well done you.
Thank you.
Great. Good. Well, are there any more questions, any more comments, or anything anybody wants to say?
I suggest your course to my niece and nephew, but I have a feeling they'll be at work at those times, so it's probably unlikely. But I think they could quite well be interested. But
thank you. It is a huge life-changing experience. It sounds like, you know, oh, it's a parenting course, but it's actually incredible when people start going through it, how much their family life changes. And that's why I've started doing it. And normally I just do it one-to-one, but I thought I'm going to experiment and see, do it with a group, because I train up other parenting consultants and I've done it as a group with them. And they've all said how much it changed their life. So I thought I'm going to branch out and see if that's something that people are interested in.
And so, but you also offer one-to-one work. So
yes.
you've got information on your website about that.
Absolutely. And one-to-one work, as I say, that has the biggest impact, because I'm working with the parents as they are with the children at the ages, with all the difficulties that they've got, and we work to get everything solved. So yes.
Look, I'll have a look. Yeah.
Thank you for asking. Good.
Can I just ask if you're able to share the slides that you've been presenting today? Or
yes, Debs, would you email me with your email address?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
My email address on the screen. If you email me, I can share those screens with you. Yeah, because even things like the list of things to do is quite useful, and it's quite nice when you're sharing it with other parents or with husbands.
Yes. That was the plan.
Fine. Yes, if anybody wants to email me, you're very welcome to. Good. All right. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with me today. I hope you found that useful. It's just touching the surface, but I think those are 7 really useful steps if you can use them.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Have a good day all.
Bye-bye. Bye, Emily. Bye-bye, Deb.
Bye. Bye. Oh, I can't leave the meeting. I don't know how to.
I'll leave it for you, Penny.